Hi everybody, I'm Sarah, the Real Simple Mama. There goes a dog. And I got a shower today, yay! And since I got a shower, I thought I'm clean and I have a quiet house right now, I thought I would finally do my tour of the indoor plants that I've got for right now and give you some basic tips on if you're wanting to put a little green in your decor inside. Usually indoor plants, and we're talking like orchids, pothos, snake plant, all that kinds of stuff. The good thing about them is that they don't require a lot of maintenance, a lot of effort, a lot of like even remembering that they exist. They clean the air really, really well. And some indoor plants don't even need sunlight at all. So you could put them in a darker room, you could put them in your bathroom, and they'll clean the air and they'll thrive off of the humidity. And most of those indoor plants only have to be watered once a week or maybe even less. So you can kind of forget about them, and just when you're doing, your laundry on Sundays or whatever, you could just set a reminder to check them. The flip side of that though is because they need so little input, they're not going to put a lot of output, meaning they're not going to grow super fast. Their blooming period may only be once a season. So you're not going to see them grow really, really quickly. Although I'll say, and I'll teach you a little bit about this too, a lot of indoor houseplants and indoor succulents are really great for propagating. And propagating is a really fancy word for cutting off a clipping, sticking it in water for a while, and getting yourself a new free plant by splitting off the original. So what I'm going to do is walk you around and show you some of the plants that I have, some of the pots that I have, and just some general suggestions. I am not an expert at all by any means, so I don't know like the formal Latin names. I don't even know the names of a couple of my succulents yet. But if you've got questions, you're welcome to drop them down in the comments, or you can send me an email. There you go. So we're going to start in my bedroom, and I'm going to flip the camera and start showing you some of the plants that I've got, and I'll show them by name as best I can. I'll let you see them real briefly. I'll tell you anything interesting about that plant or how I've split it, and then we'll move on. The one on your right is called a pothos, and a lot of the plants that I'm going to show you, their coloring of their leaves will vary depending on how much sunlight you get. So for example, this one looks fairly variegated, which just means it has like the kind of the striping or the multiple colors on the leaves. This guy grows, as you can see, like a vine and does not bloom. He grows fairly quickly, I would say, for a houseplant. And this one, because he's getting full sunlight, because he's sitting here by the window that's open most of the day, he's actually going to get, oh, there's a Penny Lane. Hi, Pen. He's going to get a lot more light coloring on his leaves. There are different variations of pothos. You can have them in areas that don't have any light at all, like your bathroom maybe. But then the leaves will be more of like just a solid dark green. Now, a couple of general tips on your houseplants that are by the windows. For example, first of all, you want to make sure that you're turning the plant like 90 degrees or 180 degrees every, I don't know, not every time that I water them, but probably once a month, just so you don't end up with like a dark side of the plant and a light side of the plant, because your plant over time, as you can see, he's starting to reach for the sun. The way you want to propagate a lot of these guys, and I actually just clipped them not too long ago, and look, he's growing something right there on the end. A lot of plants will have what's called a node. See this little thing sticking up? Those are the nodes, and you can cut right below a node, rip off the bottom couple of leaves on that new clipping. You're going to stick it in RO or super filtered water, like in a clear glass jar or a cup, and we usually just, upcycle or recycle something, and put them in sunlight for 6 weeks. Once the roots are all 2 inches long, and I've got an example I'll show you in a minute, then you can stick that guy in the ground or in another pot. Speaking of that, you want to make sure that you've got a good quality potting soil for most of these houseplants, and you've got a pot that's draining. I'll show you some other pots that I have. They're cute little ceramic things, but there's no holes in the bottom. So you've got to be really careful, because a lot of these plants, like I said, they don't need a lot of water, and their roots will rot if they're sitting in water. So this is my pothos. This is either a Thanksgiving or a Christmas cactus. This guy was blooming like crazy last winter, and now he's just kind of hanging out. You could see that my dog knocked against him and knocked off a little bit. This guy does need to be watered a little bit more frequently, and we're going to go look at some more succulents. Succulents leave the extra water that they don't need for right now. They have it in their leaves. They store it in their leaves. So you can tell that your succulent is happy because all of the coloring looks great and they're gonna have nice fat leaves. So let's go check out the next room. Real quickly, in my living room, this is called a money tree. And a money tree is basically 5 of these little money trees that are actually braided together. And they're supposed to represent the 5 virtues and bring you good luck. This guy is blooming like crazy because we've been moving them to different areas throughout the house. All of our house plants that you're about to see for the rest of this video are on a rotational basis, because some parts of our house, like you can see here, he's getting sunlight, but it's not bright and it's not direct. And then I've got all those plants over there I'm gonna show you, and then we have some more that are in the kitchen. So you can prune this guy back if you want it to be more of a compact look, but we like the way that he's growing naturally, so we're just gonna leave him right there. So real quick tour, that's a spider plant. They can grow really big. They're great in indoor hanging baskets or just anywhere in your house. There's a little terrarium-like thing. The word just escaped me that my husband made with ants. This is one of the banana variations of succulents. They are in succulent potting soil, which is different than regular potting soil because this is extra aerated and has peat moss and some other stuff in it, because succulents, like I said, they store the extra water in their leaves. See how his leaves look nice and like fat, like if you touch them, they would have some density to them. But you have to make sure that they're in the right kind of soil because, like I said, succulents do not like their roots to be sitting in wetness. They will rot and they will die, and it's really sad, and I've lost a couple. There is a jade that I have propagated. You can't see it really well because I've covered it up, but this is a piece that fell off of a healthy plant, and there's a little bit of the roots you can see in there. And what I'm gonna do with all of these babies that I'm propagating for free is I'm going to put them all in a new pot and give them as a gift to my sister. Here's an aloe pup that came from another mother plant. A lot of plants like aloe and agave and a lot of outdoor succulents, they'll have the mother plant, which was the original, right? And then they will have pups sprout up all along around their root system. When they're big enough, you can dig up the pups and it's a brand new plant with its own set of roots. Down there's another type of aloe. There's my extra supplies. This guy's really cool. He's called a goldfish plant. And the goldfish plant has a nice dark leaf. We just moved this guy around because you can see the ends of him are a little unhappy. But when the plant blooms, when it flowers, the flowers look like orange goldfish, like jumping. It's a really weird bloom. It's really cool. This is my son's Venus flytrap. We need to add a little bit more water. Venus flytraps and orchids, which are the ones right here that I'm going to talk about, they are from jungle climates and they like to be really, really, really moist. So I have 3 orchids. Here's one that's finishing its bloom. 2 right there that I know looks like a stick with a couple of leaves, and then there's my little baby one here in the front. I water these guys once a week with a water-soluble orchid food that's mixed into, like, I really just reused a vinegar jug, cleaned it real well, and then mixed the proper amount of orchid food in with water, and I water them once a week. Orchids, and I forget the scientific name, but they really don't grow in the ground. They are also from a very humid jungle climate. Let me change this lighting for you. And they actually grow on other plants, like on a tree trunk is where you would see an orchid. So they don't have a real super strong root system that goes in the ground. So a couple things that are weird about orchids. Number one, they like to be root bound, which means they like their roots to be wrapped around pretty tightly in a little pot. I've actually killed my first orchid that I had for years because I thought, oh my gosh, you know, my poor plant, it's growing so big, like it needs to be in a bigger pot. Well, when I moved it to a bigger pot, it died. So don't do that. And the other thing is they have these weird looking roots right here. And these leaves are just like, look at this, it's just so gorgeous. That right there is called an air root. And what it does is it sucks humidity out of the air because again, these guys grow on tree trunks, like they're not coming out of the ground, they grow on trees. And so they have these air roots to suck the humidity out of the air, and that's how they grow and get the nutrients that they need. So you can see this stem has bloomed twice and it will never bloom again. And I'm just waiting for the plant to sort of release it from the base and then I'll get rid of that. Orchids, because they can bloom like crazy and have a whole chain, you'll usually see them clipped like this. The thing that stinks about orchids, like I said, most indoor houseplants don't need a ton of love and care and attention. Like I said, I water these guys once every 10 days and I'm going to start actually misting them also so those air roots can get some humidity. But the bad news is once they're done with their bloom, they're going to be dormant for quite a while where they kind of just chill. They don't do a lot of growing that you can see, but they're not dead. Okay, this guy's doing just fine. You see that leaf is wrinkling just a little bit. He's ready for water. I need to water him, but he's not dead. So they'll bloom for a while And of course, your local nurseries and grocery stores and stuff are cycling out the ones that are blooming. This weirdo in the middle is a rue, which is an herb that I honestly bought without knowing much about it. Most of my herbs that are outside, they love full sun. This rue did not, and as you can see, he kind of got fried. So I'm putting him in here and experimenting with light. While we're talking about light, I'm going to show this poor little, and of course I forget the name of the succulent, the little crinkle-leafed, pink-tipped succulent. See how there's a lot of space here between each level? If we're talking about level or floors of leaves, there's one here, then there's a big gap, then there's another leaf, then a big gap. The scientific name for that is being leggy. I'm just kidding. But that's what you normally call it. And basically that means that plant is having to stretch and reach for sun. Now, that guy was over here on this shelf until just the other day. Excuse me, he was right here. So I've moved him in the hopes that giving him more light is gonna help out. But all of these guys, like I said, are just kind of rotating as I experiment and I learn how much light everybody needs and how they're happy. But the beautiful thing about plants is they're really good at telling you, hey, I need some more light, or hey, you're watering me too much. You can see, which leaf is it? This leaf, see how it's cut, that kind of like pink rottenness, you hear that sound? That leaf is dying. But what you can do with succulents, and look what's happened with this guy. This leaf is dying too, but look at the roots. Both of these are starting to grow like a brand new plant. And eventually the leaf will die, but then there will be a new little succulent right there. This is a piece that I popped off another leggy succulent. Look at that. And I'm gonna see if I can get a new baby right here. Last but not least, we're in my kitchen, and this is the area that gets the most light. So you can see there's an English ivy there on the far right. That's that little ceramic pot from the dollar store I was telling you about. Once my ivy gets a little bit bigger, we're gonna have to move it because that cute little unicorn has no drainage holes. This is a great example of propagating. That is a sweet mint sprig from my sister. Look at the roots in there, isn't that awesome? And all it needed was sunlight and clean water. Pretty cool, huh? This is the other succulent that I got right at the beginning where I popped the top off that I showed you a minute ago. And you can see, let me pull him and show you, because this unfortunately is the cost of me learning what the heck I'm doing with indoor succulents. You see that leaf in there? Now this guy's supposed to be purple and green, and I know the leaves look a little bit dirty. You can mist them and kind of clean them off. See how that leaf looks like it's rotten? Okay, that's a sign that you've been over watering, because remember these guys are holding the water in their leaves? Yeah, oversaturation, and that was my fault. This poor guy has been dropped when we moved. There's another dead leaf in there. Now, I will say on the flip side that a healthy succulent will lose or drop leaves on the bottom every once in a while, because the ones on the bottom are the oldest, right? But that's a good sign if you can wiggle a leaf and a leaf pops clean off, because if it does, then you can get little babies. And let me show you as I skip. There's my soap. See? These are all different leaves that have popped off of mostly healthy succulents. This guy was actually, where are we? This guy is outside and planted in the chicken yard, and when we were mulching, one of my kids accidentally bumped it and knocked a few leaves off. There's a baby succulent growing from right there. Now, as you can see, that leaf is going to decompose and go back to the earth. They're all sitting on succulent soil. So really the only difference when you're propagating, if it's not a succulent, you're going to put the clipping in water. See, look at that. This guy's ready to go in a pot. If it is a succulent, you're gonna lay the leaf on the succulent soil like that. And this guy, you can't see it as much anymore, but there's little pink roots coming out of him right there. And then what I do is I just use a dropper with some RO water, and a couple times a week, I'm trying to film and watch what I'm doing here. I just put a couple drops of water like right on the tip like that of all of them. And some of them will sprout babies and some of them won't, and that's okay. This is what I'm planning to make for my sister. There's a Jade in there and an Echivarea and a couple of other different kinds of succulents in there. These little guys, this trio, is all from Succulent Studios, and I'm going to put my referral link down in the video description. I believe with tax and with shipping, you pay about $16.50 a month for 2 little babies, and they come in this material, then they're wrapped together as you can see, and then they come in this little compostable cardboard type recycled material with succulent soil. And then as they get bigger, I can take that entire mechanism without having to remove it or try to get the baby out and stick it just in succulent potting soil, and that will decompose over time. I have had one problem with one little succulent that died pretty quickly after I got it. And I've contacted Succulent Studios. I know we're in the middle of the pandemic, so I'm not sure when or if I'll hear from them. But if that happens again, then I'll probably cancel. But as of right now, you know, it's just really fun and really cute to get 2 different kinds. So this is a pink-tipped Echivarea, I believe. This pink one in the middle is called the love plant. And then this is the a rosary succulent. I forgot what it's called. Rosary beads, rosary strand, something to that extent, which I thought was really cool. So in conclusion, indoor houseplants and indoor succulents and indoor orchids can be great. They don't need a lot of care and attention, but you do want to watch them because they'll tell you if they need more water, if they're not getting enough light. But they grow nice and slowly. They help clean your air. Finally, so I'll stand over here with this as my backdrop as we conclude really quickly. A couple of other plants I'm looking to get in the next 6 months is a snake plant, which is also called a mother-in-law's tongue. I didn't name it. And it's an indoor plant that doesn't require any sunlight at all. It grows vertically and is just a really cool variegated leaf. I would love to get a fiddle leaf fig tree, which is not the same as the fig that I've got outside that provides fruit. Gorgeous, huge, dark evergreen leaves. There's a whole bunch of other indoor plants that I would love to get, but remember, they're gonna clean your air, they're going to beautify your space, and they only require you to just kind of pay attention to them and take note of when they're telling you something like they need more water. So I'm still learning, but now you're learning right along with me. I'm Sarah, the Real Simple Mama. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you subscribing, and we've always got more content coming, so stay tuned.